How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Ohio State versus Michigan, squaring up once again. Unbeaten versus unbeaten this season. It's going to be a good game in the shoe. It's going to be interesting to see how these two teams adjust from how the game went last season. And yes, college, a lot of turnover. You can't really compare last season to this, but in this essence, you kind of can. Ohio State's coming once again with one of the most dominant offenses in the league into this football game, much like they did last season. Some of the returning faces, CJ Stroud, instead of the, different wide receivers coming in, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., just absolute stud out there. Probably the most unstoppable receiver in the college right now. But you look at the Michigan side of the ball and you say, well, once again, we're seeing Edwards, Corum, these guys just running the football down the throats of teams, much like they did last season, and no one can seem to stop them. That was Ohio State's problem last season. They could not get off the field defensively. That was their problem for a lot of the season, though. This season, they bring in new defensive coordinator, turning things around. You're seeing the defense slowly coming together, starting to piece together, playing better than last season. And that's going to be the big matchup there. Can Ohio State get off the field on defense against this Michigan offense? You also look at last year and say, hey, if there's one thing you question, maybe two. Hutchinson's no longer here on Michigan. They don't really have that dominant, game-changing pass rusher. They had a couple guys that could really get to the quarterback last season. They don't have that as much this season. Will that make things easier? I think it will for CJ Stroud and company to move the football down the field. Plus, if we remember properly, this was an absolute, I shouldn't say a horrible condition game, but it was snow. It was cold. It was snowy. The weather wasn't the best to have an aerial assault type of offense out there on the field. I think that did help Michigan. You play in Michigan, obviously home field advantage. I think you're looking back and say, well, it was a perfect recipe for disaster for an Ohio State football team. Michigan really had every matchup checked off last season. Ohio State couldn't get off the field defensively. It wore their defense down. You kept this potent offense off the field because of that run game. And then you had the weather conditions. You had that pass rush getting to the quarterback. Everything fell in place, and you could see it because Michigan just dominated that football game. Ohio State's offense struggled mightily throughout this game. I mean, first off, you look at the defense. Ohio State was ranked 10th in the Big Ten as far as yards allowed per game on the defensive side of the football last season. 10th in the Big Ten. This season, they are 7th in the country as far as yards allowed per game on defense. You look at Michigan, 3rd ranked in the conference last season in yards allowed per game on defense. This season, they are the best defense in the country as far as allowing yards. The defense has been phenomenal. And we're going to once again see the same matchup as last season. I think, again, the big difference maker, it's the defensive pass rush. We're going to see this Michigan defense in this run game try to control this football game. And Ohio State cannot do what we've seen it do in the past in games where it starts off slow. That's what killed them last time. You start off slow. You can't start off slow against this Michigan football team. You just can't. Buckeyes go down 10 points at halftime against Michigan. How you get off the field? The defense locks you down. The offense runs all over you. You have to keep this game within a possession or get the lead early. You got to force Michigan to get away from this run game. You can't play into their hands. Ohio State has to get going. They have to get going early, and you need to see some of these younger guys where I think they don't glare as much against a lesser opponent. The Flemings and the Egbukas of the world that were dropping passes throughout the season. You cannot afford to make those mistakes against a Michigan defense because if they allow you these opportunities, you have to capitalize on them because there's going to come far and few between compared to what's been going on throughout this season for this football team. You look at Mayan Williams, had a really good game a couple weeks ago. Can we get some consistency out of the Buckeyes run game? There wasn't that last year. They couldn't get the run game. There was, but there wasn't against Michigan. Michigan's defense did a really good job of stopping it. They're doing a really good job of slowing teams' run games down once again. They're allowing, again, a ridiculous 72 yards per game on the ground. Tops in the nation. Ohio State's probably going to struggle to run the football once again. I would expect that to be this type of game, which again means things rely more on Marvin Harrison, rely more on CJ Stroud, these guys that are difference makers through the air to win Ohio State this football game. And really, it's really hard to tell you what this defense is going to do for Ohio State. It's unpredictable, and yet it's the most important matchup of this game because Ohio State's defense really hasn't seen these dominant run offenses in the Big Ten this season. Illinois, for example, these teams that really rely on our run game to power their offense. Ohio State hasn't really ran into that this season. They haven't had those matchups yet. Michigan's going to be their first tried and true test to see if they can get off the football field. That being said, though, it's still, you watch this team play defensively. Last year compared to this year, you can see the clear difference. You can see them playing better and better the last couple weeks. And I think they're going to do a better job of forcing Michigan to get off the field. Do I think they're going to stop them all game? Absolutely not. But I think this defense can make a couple big stops this time around. Something they need to do. I think this offense is going to go up against a Michigan defensive pass rush that is not as difficult to contain as it was last season, which is, again, going to substantially help C.J. Stroud and company. C.J. Stroud, who, by the way, a Heisman favorite right now. C.J. Stroud, by the way, who is in his second year with the team, grew from last year's experience. The whole team really could look back, grow from this experience because they know what got them beat. They know where their mistakes were. And you know you're going in with a similar team, a team you've dominated in the past, a coach in Harbaugh that does not know how to win big games historically. He did last season. Will he do it again? I don't think so. I think you play in the shoe. It's a different atmosphere. I think Ohio State wins this one. We're going to say Ohio State 28, and we're going to say Michigan 24. Love you guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.